Another thing I didn't particularly like about Sydney was that it reminded me a lot of New York City and Toronto. So earlier in my life, while I was in my teenage years or maybe my early 20s, I was a different person. And at that time, cities like New York and Toronto, they excited me. I thought like these are the places I wanted to live, full of opportunity, lots of energy, beyond enough things to do, and so forth. And I would have been more than happy to have lived in one of these cities. Granted, I never lived in either Toronto or New York City. I visited both several times, more than enough times actually. So now I'm later in my life, and I've got to experience a lot more cities through my travels and also me moving around. I've been to places like Shanghai. I've been to places like Tokyo, Seoul, Dubai, Singapore, of course, London, and many, 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 many more. Cities like New York and Toronto, they don't excite me anymore. Actually, it's quite the opposite. Um, they turn me off quite a bit too. I mean, they're not the cleanest city by far. They're not the safest city, that's for sure. And there's a lot of both positive and negative energies when it comes to these cities. So, of course, Sydney is not exactly like Toronto or New York, but the way the city is mapped out, how it's laid out and organized, and just looking at the skyscrapers in the city center and just being the heart of the CBD, it gave me a lot of Toronto and New York City vibes. So at this stage in my life, Toronto and New York City are not my top choices if I wanted to live somewhere. Of course, as a tourist, totally fine. But as a strong consideration, having Sydney as my second home base, this was a little bit of a turnoff for me. Albeit during my time in Sydney, while I was walking the CBD center, I come to realize that the first Matrix movie was actually filmed here in Sydney. It was not filmed in New York, although they tried to make it look like New York or San Francisco, but it was actually filmed in Sydney, which was quite interesting. And I guess that's why it gave me some New York City vibes. Yeah, that's just an interesting side note. The third thing I didn't particularly like about Sydney was the surrounding neighborhoods. So we got to visit Surrey Hills and Newtown and a couple other neighborhoods in between. And these places certainly have their own taste, their own flavors and uniqueness. I don't think I would frequent these places all that much if I was potentially a resident in Sydney. Whereas comparatively to Melbourne, while we were staying in Melbourne, we did take the chance to visit South Yarra, and we walked on Chapel Street from the north all the way down to the south. And that was a way more pleasant experience for us